Welcome to the Mechanical PE Exam Prep Podcast, the podcast where I give mechanical engineers like you the tools and motivation to get your professional engineering license and take your career to the next level. In this episode, I chat with Suvam, a mechanical designer who recently passed the PE exam. We dive into his journey from studying mechanical engineering in Texas to balancing work, life, and the intense study grind for the exam. Suvam shares valuable insights on forming study habits, tackling tough topics, and the mindset shifts that helped him succeed. Whether you're just starting your PE journey or looking for motivation, this episode is packed with practical advice and relatable struggles every aspiring engineer will appreciate. So enjoy this conversation with Suvam. Hey,
Hey Dan,
Suvam.
good morning.
So welcome, Suvam, to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure. So where I'd like to start is with some of your background, maybe where you went to school, how long you've been working, what you've been working on, and sort of just your story of what brought you to the PE exam.
Okay. Um, I'm a little bit background on me. I'm originally from Nepal. I came to Texas in 2018. I came here for my bachelor's degree. I went to University of Texas at Tyler. So I did my bachelor in mechanical engineering, graduated around May of 2022. I joined an MEP firm based in Tyler, EMA Engineering and Consulting as an intern during my senior year. And then after I graduated, I started full time and I started working as a mechanical designer. And it's been around 3 years that I've been in that company. Initially, I did a little bit of both mechanical and plumbing, but I kind of liked mechanical a little better. So I kind of specialized in mechanical design. So I've been doing this for the past 3 years. Regarding the PE, in our field, if I'm doing an SVSC, I'm a SVAC mechanical designer, right? So in our field, it is really, everyone in my company, people who are senior to me, and all of them have, or lots of people, I think it's more than 10 or 15 people have PE. So I kind of knew in the back of my mind that I always needed to do it. So I gave my FE when I was in my senior year. So I got FE out of the way, and then I waited for a couple of years to get a little bit more experience, in the field, just to know a little bit better. And then after a couple of years, I think last year I kind of made a resolution to myself that, hey, 2024, I'm going to give my PE no matter what. And then I initially scheduled my PE for the August, I think for August, around February, March. But it turned out that I didn't prepare it at all. I got a course around, February, March, but then I really never, had enough time. I was kind of busy in work, but I was not in my right headspace. And then August came too quickly, so I had to postpone it to November. And then I kind of started, I studying it more religiously. And then the main problem was getting into the habit. So that's how I got into PE. And I gave my PE right before Thanksgiving, and then got my result after Thanksgiving. So it was pretty sweet.
Wow, that's fantastic. So a couple interesting things there. I think a lot of folks, few people in states where they're not able to go for the exam whenever they want, they have to get a certain amount of experience, whether it's 4 or 5 years. So for
Yeah.
the audience listening, you're in Texas, and in
Mm-hmm.
Texas, they don't have that requirement. You can take the exam right away, but you still
Yeah.
have to acquire the years of experience for your application later. So now that you've done the exam, do you still have a ways to go in terms of experience and application later?
Yes. So I passed my exam what November 2024, and I think I still need to wait 1 more year. So by the end of 2025, I'll have enough experience to apply for the license. So right now I passed my PE, but I still can't get my license. I need to build those 4 years. So towards the end of this year, if I remember correctly, I think it's towards December, I'll be able to apply for my license. So I wanted to get, I mean, exam is the main thing, right? So I wanted to get it out of the way, and I can still, keep on getting experiences anyway. So,
Right.
yeah, in Texas, I think maybe you need to wait a little bit after you graduate, but if after you give your FE, I think I've seen people who get their PE like 2 or 3 months after they give their FE as well. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen people do that.
I think it's good that you waited a little bit and got a couple of years of experience first because it just helps a
I
lot with the studying. You know what types of systems and equipment you're dealing with in the day to day. You have a lot of context there. So there's something to be said for being a bit patient and kind of letting it come to you.
100%. I agree. I could not agree more. So if I had given my PE in my, I don't know, immediately after college in the first year, I would not have known the application side of things. Maybe I would have, done the theoretical part, but the application side of things, I learned a whole lot in the past 2 years, being involved in the project, going in the field and seeing how things actually, work, all of those things. So I got a lot of those experiences in those 2 years, and I agree with you, it really helped me out during my preparation. It was not just some random problem I was solving. Um, I could think about it. Sometimes I would even go to my, my main mechanical guy in my company just to kind of discuss, hey, I got this problem, but I wanted to know a little bit more about it. How does this apply to our real life, right? So if I was designing it, would I do the same thing that the problem asked me to do? Things like that. So it helped me just getting those 2 years in my under my belt. It helped me understand SVAC better, and then I think in a way going through that PE exam made me a better designer as well, because I was able to ask the right questions and then figure out, oh, okay, this is how it's done. You know what I mean? Get into the right habits and everything. So yeah, I 100% recommend people to at least give them a couple of years to, get in the industry. One thing is, the main thing I struggled with was, building up the habit of studying again. So that's hard if you have not studied for, it doesn't matter if it's just 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So just getting back into that habit was a little bit of an struggle, but
Mhm.
the experiences that I gained, they were massive. They helped me a lot.
Yeah, so let's pull the thread a little bit on that. So you knew you wanted to do this, and you and I met, I want to say, around February of 24 when you got started with us,
I think
and
so.
and then it took a bit of time for you to really get going on it. So what was going on at the beginning there? I know it was important to you, but for whatever reason, it was just hard to kind of make a start.
Yeah. So I guess, so like I said, at the new year, I made a resolution, right? This year I'm going to pass my PE, but then, and that's what brought me into February, just of subscribing to your channel and everything. Because I knew that I would need to do it, but I guess I was not ready in my mind. Work is always there, and then I had a couple of challenging projects that I needed to get out, and then I thought, okay, I think I can still do it, but then I guess I just, I think I saw one of your podcasts earlier, and one of the guys said, hey, it's like running a marathon. You need to sign it up, and then you start actually training for it. I could resonate with him, because I knew that if I didn't sign up, I'd not do it. And I'm thankful that I signed up on February, and then when August came, I was like, dude, what am I doing? I have not done anything. And then he hit me, okay, and now I really need to focus on my PE. So yeah, I did it just because, I knew that I needed to do it to get me in the group. And then I think I studied a little bit. I think I finished your fundamental part of things, before August, but I did not get to the actual main practice exams and whatnot, practice questions and whatnot. So around August, I knew that I needed to give myself 3 or 4 months to kind of prepare for it. And then I think I was in a good space mentally as well with work and everything. I knew, okay, this is what my schedule looks like for the next 3 months. I think, and I talked to my supervisors as well and told them, hey, this is what I'm doing. I might not be able to, commit fully towards the end of November. So I kind of got it all planned out, gave enough time for myself, gave enough PTOs that I needed to save up to take a little bit of time off of work to prepare for my studies,
Mm.
and I think it kind of worked out at the end.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's great that you had the wherewithal to kind of manage expectations at work. And also,
Mm,
there's seasons for everything. The fact that you were busy with some challenging projects in the first half of
yeah,
the year, it was probably not going to be easy for you to say, well, I'm studying for this exam. So you do what you
yeah.
have to do. But then August comes around and you hit the reset button. And once you did, then
Mm.
you were pretty much hit the ground running from there, August onward.
Yeah, that's true. And so timeline wise, so I did it in August, right? Then I started, so I think September, I took me, or at least half of September. It was just about putting in the time. I don't know if I, studied a lot, but I would just separate this much time for my studies, I think. And that was the biggest issue with me. I was not able to be in that zone of studying. It was already 2.5 years since I graduated college, and I was not used to studying. I was just doing, going to office at 8, leave at 5, do my thing after work, watch movies or whatever. But just to stay after 5 and then start preparing for PE. After that, it took a lot of, struggle to kind of get into the habit. So I want to say at least half of September, or even, or half of August, I think, half of August, or, full August, and then early September, I just kind of tried to bring those habits back in, habits of studying. And once I get comfortable with, staying a little bit extra, preparing for my PE, then it was about just doing a lot of problems after that. So September and October and half of November, I just practiced as many problems as I could, and that's how I think that's how I did it.
That's awesome. It fits perfectly too. I mean, what I always tell people, they say, how long does it take to study for the PE exam? I say, well, it usually takes 4 to 6 months. But the
Mm,
real truth is that it can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to some number of months to
yeah.
really get going. And you did some of that early work back in February and March where you were
Yes.
watching fundamentals videos
Mm,
and daily insights and getting the lay of the land, really kind of
yeah.
getting your arm around what the process was going to be like. And it wasn't until August, September when you started
Mm,
going fast. But once you started, it was a straight line and you basically didn't let up all the way until your
mm,
exam. So, it's easy for people on the outside to look at that and say, well, then it takes 3 months to study for the PE
mm.
exam. It's like, sort of, but not really.
Yeah, technically it took me from February to November, right? So it's not just 3 months. It took me those few months to kind of get into the headspace, the right headspace, be mentally prepared, and then get into the right habits. So I started a lot earlier, but I mean, I don't think just couple of months. And maybe for some it might be, but couple of months, just doing it, and then just if you want to do a P and then schedule it couple of months out, I don't think that's a really good idea. But like I said, maybe at the end of the day, the actual hard reading, the actual hard practice that I did was maybe for 2 months, maybe. But the just to get into that mindset, to build up that habit and everything, it took me a lot more than that. But yeah, the actual, like you said, the straight line kind of, the day-to-day reading was for the past not 2.5 months, close to 3 months.
Yeah. Well, it comes back to our marathon metaphor, right? Like, not the whole
Yeah,
26 miles are hard. You go out there, you start running, it
exactly.
kind of seems like you're going too slow. Maybe you could go faster, but there's a hard part that comes in that
Mm.
that last half or the last third, and it starts to hurt, but you got to keep pushing, and that's what you did. So, yeah. So, what else aside from just like you said, forming the habit was a big kind of theme for you. What else was hard about it? What kind of challenges or surprises did you encounter once you were into the work?
So there are a few things, in my college, when you study mechanical engineering, you usually just have one heat and thermodynamics, couple of one thermodynamics course, and then heat transfer, maybe a little bit of fluids. So it's a three course, and maybe you're not paying that much attention to it even during your college days. So the thing that I struggled with most was not a struggle, but I had to work a little extra hard was just to get your fundamentals were really helpful in that sense that it was really helpful to bring back all those concepts, the core concepts that I needed. So I needed to at least get into. I needed to know, okay, what am I studying about? What are the topics that I need to work on fluids? What are the topics that I need to work on thermodynamics? Just to get the theoretical part of it. So that's where your fundamentals came into picture. It helped me kind of get into that, just to get that background knowledge. And then once I started practicing, if I didn't have any background knowledge and if I'm just solving problems, I don't think it's as effective. So having that background knowledge, I think it took me a lot of time to understand the underlying concepts.
Hmm.
And so at the end of so when I was ready to give my exam, I felt like, okay, I know what I'm talking about. I know what kind of topics I get on the thermodynamics or SVAC, you know what I mean? So when I was giving my PE in my mind, I was already prepared enough to tackle any type of questions as far as theory goes. Now, solving them, the units and everything, that's always you need to be attentive in during that particular day. But I think it's really important that you know the underlying concepts so that you don't just practice questions for the sake of practicing. Just ask yourself, so why am I doing all this? Why is Dan doing solving it this way? And you also had a couple of good ways on solving questions in the sense that let's say if a new topic came in, you would just give a little bit of background on it. And that was really helpful for me. For me, if I don't understand why I'm doing something, I cannot memorize it. I have a really bad memory, so I need to understand it in my head, right? It needs to make sense. And that's why you did a really good job on explaining the background on pretty much almost all the topics. And so coming back to your original question, yeah, just getting those concepts pretty much nailed down and then trying to solve as much practice problems as I could. That was really helpful. And then the second thing I would say, and this is something interesting that I found was, so some people, and I subscribed to your course, right? And you have bunch of topics. And initially what I did was I just tried to solve as many problems I could from the first topic, and then I would go bottom down, right? But after doing it for a month or at least 20, 30 days, what I felt was maybe it's not the best way to just practice just lots of problems from one topic and then go to the next. Maybe I just do 5 topics from doing this particular 5 problems from this topic, go to the next one, do 5, then go to the next one, and then keep just shuffling
Mm.
around like you shuffle songs, so that during my exam day I am not just focused. And maybe for the past 10 days, maybe I'm not just focusing on one particular topic, but I've been constantly just recirculating around a bunch of different problems. And I think that was really helpful. That was something that I did midway through my studying, and it had an immediate impact because I knew that. So I think there were a couple of topics where I did like 20 problems before moving to next. But then after 1 month or 1.5 months, when I went back to the same question, I didn't really, I remember all the things that I studied earlier. So what I knew was maybe you just shuffle topics, then you are fresher, you are more used to solving different types of problems. And during exam, I think that was really helpful. So that was my biggest takeaway. And then towards the end of my practicing, I started to focus more on the test side instead of just practice problems. To be honest with you, some of your questions would take me like an hour to, just grab everything, go to not an hour, maybe hour might be a overstatement, but let's say 20 minutes or 25 minutes, right? Because you'd need to go to so many different slides to get the information. And I knew that there is no, this problem is coming on exam, right? But at the time I needed to go through that problem to get my, the thing I said earlier, that concept, to get those concepts um, clear. So to understand the concept, it was really important to do all those things. But what I said was, okay, I'll practice all of these for the first 2 months, but during my last month or so, I will only focus on questions that, that I think will come on test. As in, maybe a question that comes on test might not take me 20 minutes. Maybe I didn't need to go to 5 different tables. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I did all that hard work for the first 2 months, and then for my last month, I was in test mindset. Okay, well, do I think this kind of question can come in test? And then the first thing I did was I did the official test that I got, the official practice test that they give during my while I registered for the PE exam, right? So I first did that and saw how I did, and then I kind of did it again a little bit later to see how I was doing. So I think that is more kind of important to get into the zone of giving tests. And then you had a couple of excellent tests as well, practice tests that you made. And I think towards my last 15 days, I did your test. In those last 15 days, I would do half a test or 1/4 of a test, few days, and then take a little bit of rest, then go at it again. And I
That's
think
perfect.
just those 3 tests helped me out in the last month, and then all of the practice problems for the first 2 months, they got me ready.
That's great. Yeah, no, I mean you you followed the process to a T, so it's great to see that it just worked out in the end. Especially what you said about some of the problems in the core content being a little bit more difficult than what you'd see on a typical exam problem. It's
Hmm.
almost like 2 big ideas or 3 big ideas have been slammed
Yeah,
into one problem, which is what makes it take 20 minutes. But you could
yeah,
imagine that problem being broken in half or in thirds and being split into separate problems, each of which would be totally reasonable to see on the exam. So we kind of stack those things together. Also, what you mentioned about cycling between the different topics is interesting because a lot of the chapters, when taken by themselves, are kind of incremental. There's almost a narrative
Mm,
there. You do a problem, it's not too hard. You do another problem, it's also not hard, but there's a little twist compared to the one before
mm,
it. And then another twist, and then a different twist, and then two twists together. And by the time you get to the 12th problem, 15th problem, 18th problem, you're sort of sitting on the foundation of what you've done in every problem in that chapter up until then. And because it happens so gradually, you almost don't realize it. But then if you
mm.
go away from it, like you said, you go away from it for a month or 2 months, and then you
Yeah,
revisit it, and let's say you just started with that 20th problem,
yeah.
and some pieces of that foundation might still be there and some might not. And that's exactly what I want to have happen because it's not going to happen all at once. You look at something
Mm,
once, you're going to definitely absorb parts of it, but not necessarily every single bit. And that's where the repetition comes in and circling back and revisiting. And, some of those more intricate problems at the end require a second or a third touch. And I like what you
mm.
did by kind of cycling through because it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to kind of forget. And I
Yeah.
also, something else that you said that really resonated is that you're not going to rely on your memory, right? The
No.
point of this thing is not to have a great memory. Engineers, their strength is their ability to reason from first principles, to build things up using their critical thinking, which means that they're going to make reasonable assumptions and build and build and build, and that's how you analyze and find your way to a solution. Of course, if you remember something that's similar and it's useful, then you may use that. But anytime you reason by analogy and saying this thing's like this other thing,
Mm,
you're very much putting yourself in a position to be in for a surprise in that this thing is not exactly like that other thing in some critical way. And hopefully enough practice problems causes you to realize all the ways those analogies can break down. And then you're on the lookout for those sorts of nuances and you can't really catch you off guard anymore after a while.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I 100% agree. W- One other thing maybe that worked for me was, so I'm the kind of person that, let's say if I, I think it's true for everyone that if you start, solving problems and you start getting answers, then you kind of build your confidence up. So for me, if I was struggling with a particular topic and let's say I was not having a good time, maybe I was like, maybe I didn't realize it at the time, but now that you said it, it makes sense. Maybe I was doing problems from 15 to 20 of one particular topic, right? And it was taking me forever to get through 15 to 20
Mm,
because at the time I didn't know that you had designed the course that way. So what I did was, so if something was not happening in that particular topic that day, I just move to a different topic, maybe go to a supporting topic and then do the easier problems and then get that confidence back up. And then maybe some other day when you are feeling a little bit better, you feel a little bit better prepared, then you go back and tackle those problems again. And that was also another benefit of just cycling around, that I would not feel, oh, I didn't do it this day, so I have to come back tomorrow and do it again. I didn't have that baggage on the back of my mind. If something was not working, maybe I just strictly move to a different topic, solve whatever I need to solve over there, and then in a couple of days time or maybe in a week's time, I come back and then I just look at the problem in completely different way. So it looks like a new problem. I look at it differently and then try to solve it differently. So that helped. And like you said, just not relying on memory, or like you said, if I see a couple of problems that are kind of similar, maybe even though the problem looks similar, the approach to the problem might be a whole lot different because there's just one small detail that's missing from the earlier problem. So even though a problem looks similar, maybe you are not supposed to solve it the similar way. So that's where just understanding the problem, trying to learn the concepts behind the problem, and then finding your own solution kind of helps. And that's something I realized as well. There were a few problems where I did it completely differently than what you did. And what I would do is, even after I solved it, I would still go back and look at your video just to see, okay, how did Dan solve it? Did he solve it in a better way than mine, or do I think whatever I'm doing right now, I think it's easier, or it comes naturally to me. So there were a few cases where I just stick to mine, and there were other cases where I'd be like, oh, that's a smart. Why didn't I not think of that? So even though I solved the problem, maybe the way you did it was a little bit better. So it was interesting kind of looking at it both ways and finding different ways to solve a problem. And just, at the end of the day, it was just about practicing a lot of problems, like you said, repetitive problems, and then just getting into that mindset of practicing enough that you are just prepared for anything.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's like an analogy for a well-designed engineering system, right? You want it to be
Yeah.
robust, you want it to be resilient. So you want flexibility and multiple options and redundancy. So, if you have two or three different ways that you can come at something, then you're twice or three times as powerful as a candidate who only has one move. And their
Hmm.
move doesn't work, and they start, scrambling, and now they're just going to pick a guess and pick an answer choice and go to the next one. And if that happens enough times, it starts to feel like it's going downhill and things can spiral from there. But if you've got a secondary and a tertiary move, then
Hmm.
you're not going to get stuck. You're just going to keep going and fighting and finding a way through. So, with all of that said, in terms of your preparation, what was your exam day like? What do you remember from the actual the big dance?
Okay, so what I did was I don't remember what day. I think I gave my exam on a Monday, right? So I had Saturday, Sunday day off, and then I think I took Thursday and Friday day off as well because I needed to just not worry about work at all for the 4 days. I wanted to get into the zone. I
Nice.
think I gave there was one quarter of a practice test left, if I remember correctly, that I had to give on Thursday or Friday or something, like maybe half of your test. I was, that one half of your test was remaining. So I think I used Thursday and Friday to kind of do that. But then on Saturday and Sunday, I barely studied at all. I was like, man, I'll just take good rest. I'll take care of my body, sleep well, eat good food, just be in as calm as possible, be as relaxed as possible. I didn't really do much. I just maybe watched a movie or something, just took a walk or whatever on Saturday and Sunday. I didn't do really much, maybe. And if there was something like last minute things that I wanted to kind of, refresh on, I did that. But I didn't give a test on a Saturday, Sunday or something like that. And then come Monday, I went early. I think I went maybe 45 minutes early, and then just one thing I had few snacks and then I took water with me. But one thing I realized was after I got my break, I went downstairs. There was a Chick-fil-A nearby. I just got my lunch and then I got back to the exam, right? And the second half was really tough for me because it's an exam for 8 hours. You are just constantly trying to solve a lot of things, right? So second half was really tiring. And then I realized that maybe it would have been better if I had brought some kind of energy drink with me and not just water, just to give myself a little bit of extra push. And that's what I recommended my other friends who were planning on giving their exam as well. Just bringing a some kind of energy drink just to give yourself a little bit of lift in the second half because
Yeah,
I
for that
really
afternoon,
struggled.
cup of coffee or
Yeah,
something.
something like that because I was really struggling on the second half. I was having a little bit of issue kind of focusing on a few things, and I took a break and then I had my water break and then just kind of took a little bit of pause and then I went back at it again. But yeah, second half was tough. The first part was not that hard. There were a few questions that I think I could have done better, but it was not that bad. But yeah, like I said, the second part was really tough. I guess just the time of it. The questions were not that substantially harder, but it's just that I was giving examples the last 6 hours and my
Yeah.
mind was, almost trying to just take a rest a little bit. But I needed to stay sharp because the one thing I noticed was even though the questions were not that hard, you had to be super attentive because the units, the different kind of pitfalls that they gave, it was more just figuring out what units to use, what kind of it was more about being attentive on the day of the exam rather than just tougher questions. There were a couple of questions that maybe I was not prepared enough, and there will always be a couple of questions that I had never seen before, right? But the main takeaway for me was how attentive I had to be because there were so many questions that I flagged, and then I went back and checked my answer, and I got a completely different answer because I was overlooking a small detail in the question or a small unit that I thought it was on PSI, but PSIA, but it was actually on PSIG. It's stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
all those small things. So on the exam day, like I said, I took a couple of days of rest and then I gave my exam. It would have been a better if I had some coffee or some kind of energy drink for the second part. But other than that, my biggest suggestion for everyone will be to just pay attention. Don't The questions will not be that extremely hard, but it will look easy, but you'll so easily fall into that pitfall of I think I got the right answer, but at the end of the day, it's what they want you to do. They want you to just think that you got the right answer, but then you actually are not. So
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
something that I got.
The trap answer is always going to be offered, so all the common missteps,
Mm,
they'll have an answer for that. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Yeah, and another thing I kind of wanted to, you were talking about it earlier about having two or three different ways, and one particular topic that really applies is the which one was it? The SBAC where you solve, where you use the psych chart.
Mhm.
There are just so many ways to solve this problem, and I would suggest everyone to kind of do all the different kinds of ways. Like there are ways that you suggest, and there are ways where you do a little bit more hard work and you just do it instead of doing it through the site chart. You go through the table and then you solve it from there. And then there are other ways where you use the ratio, the SCR and everything, SSR and everything.
Mhm.
So there are different ways to solve all of those. So the more you know, the better. Because there were a few problems where I was like, maybe I can just do it from side chart, and then it didn't turn out to be that easy doing it from the side chart, and I had
Mhm.
to go back to the tables and whatnot. And then there were other cases where there was a table given in the problem, but then I said, well, why can't I use a side chart for this? And I went and used the side chart, and it was much easier than going through the table. So, like I said, just if you have different ways to solve a problem, just have everything in your locker so that you are the best prepared you can be.
Amen. I couldn't agree more with that more. And also, like having one method to verify another gives you
Yeah,
that peace of
exactly.
mind of knowing, or
Mhm.
like as a judgment call, maybe your answer comes out and it's kind of between two answers, and you feel like you want to round up or you want to round down, and you have your reasons for that. But then you go do a second method and you realize, it's actually closer to one than the other. And
Yeah,
it's like, now I know it's not 100%, but you're like 95% that it's going to be that one, and you make your choice, you move on. You don't even have to flag it and return to it because you feel pretty good about that selection.
yeah,
And, it's a probability thing. If you make a bunch of 95% probable decisions over the course of 80 problems, you're going to feel very good at the end.
yeah, that's true. Oh, also another thing is do not ignore economics problem, the supporting topics
You had a
problem,
few of
because
those?
yeah. I mean, maybe not a lot, but you don't want to mess those problems up, right? Because those are really straightforward. But I think there were at least one or two that I messed up, and I was like, man, I should have
Hmm.
studied a little bit more on that topic. Why didn't I not think of that? I I I kind of, superficially just kind of brushed the topic. Maybe I focus a lot more on SBAC and heat transfer, but at the end of the day, if I solve a problem for economics or from SVAC, it carries the same weight, right? So
Hmm.
maybe, and those are simple topics as well. You can spend maybe a couple of days and you'll understand pretty much all the topics there are. So don't, forget to study those topics as well. And the reason I remembered about that was what you said about having a couple of methods to do it. So in that particular topic is you can find answer through the table or through the formulas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a problem where the table was like maybe they give a 6% and an 8%, and they gave me the question asked for 7%. So I didn't have a table, but I could extrapolate from 6 and 8, and then I could also use the formula, and I did both, and then the answer came fairly close, and I was satisfied. So just like you said, knowing different ways to solve the same problem, it will never, it'll always help you out.
Yeah. And the extra hidden advantage of that, other than just having that chance to verify on exam day, is what happens when you're studying over months and months and you're constantly looking for a second or a third method. It means that you're cultivating good engineering judgment because you're sort
Mm,
of testing the methods to say, like, well, how easy is this method? Am I going to be able to do this quickly? Am I going to be able to do it reliably? And then does it tend to give me an answer that's about right? Does it tend to be kind of an estimate where it's like a finger in the wind? Because with a lot of these rule of thumb equations, they're very powerful and very useful, but they're only going to have a certain level of accuracy because of embedded
mm,
assumptions. So you have to be prepared for them to be a little high, a little low, and maybe you want to sharpen your pencil and go deeper. Or maybe you're like, no, in this situation, this is right down the middle. The rule of thumb should work perfectly, and I'm not going to
mm,
worry too much about it, especially if the answer choices are spaced out considerably. But there's a lot of little things that happen when you're studying that build up your ability to make those judgments. And it's hard to quantify that. It's like, how do you compare one candidate to another who's formed that ability over time through hours versus someone else who, here's a calculator, here's the reference handbook, have at it. and they just
Mm.
haven't done the work. They could be a good engineer, but maybe they haven't gone through that process. So, that's what studying really is to me. And the problems are they're just the material that you get to chew on as you do that work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I agree. Like you said, as an engineer, we try to, find the best possible way to solve whatever, real life problems, right? So you kind of entertain different ways to do it. And at the end of the day, you think, okay, this is what works best. But let's say that particular method doesn't work in that situation, then you fall back on a different method that you tried earlier. So yeah, it perfectly applies to real life as well. And it's the same for the PE. The more ways you know how to solve a problem, the better you are more equipped to kind of tackle different types of problems. So you'll not be surprised during the exam. Like you said, the smaller details, I mean, a couple of questions, they might look absolutely same, but the next problem might just not have that one small detail, and you need to go a whole lot different way. So just equipping yourself with those extra, different methodologies, it is always helpful.
Awesome. So now I know you still have some work to do in terms of your application, and it's going to be toward the end of this year. But already, has there been any impact for you in terms of getting this done and passing your PE exam? Obviously, you get a lot of time back, which is great, but anything aside from that?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, so the first thing is now I'm way relieved that I don't have something hanging on the back of my head. Hey, this is something I need to do. So that relief, the immediate experience after I got the result was released, and it lasted for let's say at least a month or so. I was like, oh man, I don't have to do it again, right? So that the relief was my first experience, but after a while, even in my work, so now the change I can see in myself is if I'm doing something, I want to know more about it. Now that I know that hey, I will be a P eventually at the end of this year. So the way I'm looking at work or the way I'm looking at some projects has completely been different than what I used to be earlier. Maybe earlier I just wanted to get the job done, but now I want to learn more about it. Okay. As an engineer, what am I looking here? What are the things I can learn from this job, and what are the takeaways that I can keep in my locker so that I can use it in the future. So just the way of looking at things has been different. And maybe earlier you know, uh, I used to seek the easy way out, but now I don't wanna, maybe I don't want to always do the easy way. Maybe I want to learn the right way to do things, right? Because I feel like, okay, eventually I'll be a PE, and then so all those small changes in my attitude, I can see it now, just those small habits that I'm trying to build. Just having that PE exam, on the back of my back pocket, I just kind of feel more responsible, more enthusiastic, more curious about different things. So it has been a really good change for me. So yeah, I think that's it. Just a change in attitude at my work, how I'm looking at things, and just feeling more confident as well now
Mm.
when I'm talking to clients, or when I'm talking to my supervisors or my colleague, I have that extra kind of gravitas in my I have done that, so I know, just on the back of my mind, I kind of know, okay, even if I don't know how to do it, maybe I'll be able to find a way. So I have that confidence as well. So just confidence, good attitude, and thinking, trying to learn things, trying to get as much experience as I can from the project. I think those are the few shifts in my attitude or experiences that I would say after being a PE or passing the PE.
Yeah, that definitely resonates with me. I know that's the feeling that I had too. And it really centers around that theme of responsibility that you mentioned. You see yourself as growing into this role of professional
Mm,
engineer because it's inevitable now. You're going to do an application and it's going to be done. And other people see you that way too. So, part of it is wanting to fulfill that. And another part is a genuine curiosity and interest
mm.
and desire to step into that next level, which is kind of the maturation of your career. So yeah, it's really exciting and awesome to hear that. That's what you would hope to hear from someone who's going through the journey that you are. So
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like you said, after I did my PE, just the journey of practicing for that PE exam, I was not just practicing, how to solve a problem, but I was trying to when I say practicing how to solve a problem, I meant how to mathematically solve a problem. I was not just trying to, use my calculator and whatnot. I was also learning how to look at things differently, look at the real life situations differently. Maybe while I was, practicing those questions, maybe I was more thinking about, okay, how does this relate in my job? Or if the same, we all solve for hypothetical situations, right? But what if those kind of situations come in my project? How will I tackle those? So it really made me a more thinking person. I started to ask more questions. And like I said, as a designer, there are a few rule of thumbs that we use in our life as well, right? And I would just keep on following it. But now I want to learn more about why I'm doing it this way. Okay, this is a rule of thumb that I've been following for the past 2 years, but why exactly am I doing it? What's the reasoning behind this? So I'm kind of
Yeah.
asking those questions more and more. And that's the shift I've found in my experience, that I just want to learn more. I'm getting more interested in the HVAC industry, and it's fascinating how different, what it looks like a straightforward industry, but there are so many small intricacies that I can look for. And then now I'm looking at videos. Sometimes I look, even after doing the PE, sometimes I look at, I subscribe to your channel, right? So sometimes I see a video pop up and I just want to look at the video out of curiosity. So yeah, after giving and passing that exam, I think there has been a shift in my attitude that I have noticed.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's amazing how curiosity can be the fuel for just continuing in your career and wanting to figure something out and wanting to go deeper. And it's humbling too, because the more we learn, we've learned
Mm-hmm.
enough, right? You and I have done enough to meet the minimum level of competency to be professional engineers, but there's still so much more to do within the HVAC and refrigeration space. And then it sort of makes you look across the aisle at your colleagues that work on their specific fields, whether it's electrical or something else, and to know that they have an equally deep rabbit hole to go down for their own
Mm-hmm.
professional engineering licensure, and then to be able to collaborate with them and bounce ideas. And it just, you realize it's a big world in engineering, and there's a
Yeah,
lot to
yeah,
do,
yeah.
and there's a lot of niches within that. So it kind of opens up things in your future in terms of where you might go. So I'll be excited to hear where your future takes you. Are there any kind of last thoughts, or maybe a soundbite, one piece of advice that you have for people who are considering following in your path?
Um, yeah, I mean, number one, practice is the key. Just give yourself enough time, and then honestly, man, just practice however many questions you can, and don't underestimate PE. I mean, at first I thought, just looking at the practice questions that I got from the official test, I thought, oh, maybe it's not that bad, right? Maybe Dan is just making it extra hard, and then
It's
during
not
the
like the
exam,
FE, right?
yeah, and during the exam day, I was like, oh, he was not joking. Those practice tests that you had, they were really helpful. So don't take it lightly, but at the same time, don't get overwhelmed,
Right.
because if you have practiced enough and if you believe in yourself, it's just about just being attentive on the particular day of the exam. If you focus on the good things and you are well prepared, there is no reason you should not pass. So yeah, practice, be confident, practice all of Dan's problems, and at least practice this. That's it, do it.
That's fantastic advice. A point about balance, right? Don't take it
Yeah.
lightly, but
Mm-hmm.
also don't get so overwhelmed that you don't get started and do the work.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant takeaway for everyone. Awesome. Suvam, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate having you here. Congratulations, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for inviting. I had a good time. And hopefully people will benefit a little bit from our conversation.
Thanks for listening to the Mechanical PE Exam Prep Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review to help other engineers find the podcast. And if you're looking for a program that will help you pass the PE exam, check out the full access bundle available at mechanicalpeexamprep.com, and feel free to reach out with any questions. I would be honored to be your guide on the journey to becoming a professional engineer.